All right, let's just jump right in. I mean, we are living in a world that is just drowning in data, right? The amount of it is staggering, almost impossible to even wrap your head around. But here's the thing. The real problem has never been about having the data. Nope. It's always been about actually connecting it and, using it to do something meaningful.
And hey, if you want a number to chew on, check this out. Analysts are predicting that by 2025, we're going to have about 180 zettabytes of data globally. Now, what's a zettabyte? That's a 1 followed by 21 zeros. It is a truly mind-boggling number. But you know what? All that data also represents this huge, massive, untapped potential just waiting for us.
And that right there, that's the core problem we're going to unpack. For decades, the whole process of sharing data, whether it's with another team in your own company or with an outside partner, has just been a total nightmare. It's been full of friction, delays, extra costs. Honestly, it's been one giant headache. So let's dig into that. Let's really unpack why the old ways of sharing data were so fundamentally broken. What was it that made something that sounds so simple, just getting data from here to there, such a complete and utter mess? When you look at all the traditional methods, they all share the exact same fatal flaw. They're all about making a copy of the data and then moving that copy somewhere else. Think about it. Email. You'd hit file size limits in a heartbeat, not to mention the whole clunky process of encrypting and decrypting everything. FTP. A bit better for big files, sure, but it was so rigid and complex to manage. You needed custom scripts on both sides, just a hassle. And what about ETL pipelines? Well, they're powerful for certain things, but for sharing, they introduce massive delays and are super expensive to build and maintain. Even modern APIs, which seem better, still end up moving data, creating yet another copy, and causing all sorts of performance bottlenecks. And this is the really critical part. All those technical headaches, they weren't just problems for the IT department. They translated into very real, very tangible business pain. Because sharing was so darn hard, you got data silos popping up all over the place. Different teams would have their own, slightly different copies of the data, which led to inconsistent reports and ultimately bad decisions. It jacked up operational costs, killed productivity, and if you had valuable data you actually wanted to turn into a product, good luck. The complexity went, your time to market was just painfully slow. Okay, but what if we could just get rid of the root cause of all this pain? What if we could just stop moving data altogether? Well, that's exactly the shift in thinking that's changing the entire game. Welcome to the no-copy revolution. The big idea here is that we stop shipping copies around and instead start sharing secure, live access to the data. This right here, this is the secret sauce. It's how it all works. When a modern data platform shares data, it's not actually blasting terabytes of information across the internet. No way. Instead, it's just instantly exchanging a tiny bit of metadata. Think of metadata as information about the data along with the permissions to access it. The actual data, it never moves. It stays right where it is. And that huge, slow, heavy lifting of moving data is just gone, eliminated. So you're probably asking, how is that even possible? Well, it's all built on a few really clever architectural pillars. The first one is this idea of decoupled storage and compute. It's a simple concept, really. The data lives in one central place. That's your single source of truth. Then you have all these independent compute resources. Think of them as the engines that do the analysis, that can all access that same data. And the best part? The person or company using the data pays for their own compute engine, so their heavy-duty queries never, ever slow down the person who's providing the data. Okay, pillar number 2 is the services layer. The easiest way to think about this is as the platform's brain. It's the traffic cop. It manages all the security, the access rules, and, this is super important, it guarantees that everything is transactionally consistent. What that means in plain English is that the provider and every single consumer are always looking at the exact same live, up-to-the-second version of the data. No more stale copies, ever. All right, and when you put those first 2 pillars together, you unlock the third and final piece of the puzzle, basically unlimited concurrency. Because every single person accessing the data uses their own separate compute engine, you can have hundreds or even thousands of users all querying the same live data set at the exact same moment. And nobody slows anybody else down. It is an architecture that is built for massive, massive scale right from the get-go. Okay, so that's all the theory, right? But what does this actually look like in the real world? Let's check out how this new architecture is totally transforming businesses that were stuck dealing with those old, painful methods. First up, let's talk about Snagajob.
They're a big online job board. And to share data with one of their marketing partners, they have this completely manual, clunky process. I mean, they had to extract the data, zip it up, encrypt it, email it, and then just sit and wait for their partner to do that whole painful process in reverse. The whole thing took days.
And this example just perfectly shows the transformation. They switched over to a modern platform, and that multi-day nightmare, it was replaced by a single secure data share. Just like that. Their partner got instant access to the live, single source of truth. The result? The process went from taking days down to just a few hours. And get this, they saw a 300% cost savings on that one workflow. Incredible.
Okay, next case study, Localytics. They're a mobile analytics platform. Now, their big problem was that they were stuck using old ETL processes to share data with their customers. This created all these inconsistent copies of data, and even worse, it meant their customers were dealing with a 3-hour data latency. And in the world of mobile analytics, believe me, 3 hours is an eternity.
So by switching to a direct data sharing model, they were able to completely get rid of that ETL burden. But look at the impact this had on their customers. Data latency plummeted from 3 hours to just 3 minutes. All of a sudden, their customers had near real-time access to live, consistent data, which completely changed the game for the kinds of insights they could pull.
Okay, now whenever we talk about making data sharing this easy and instant, a huge red flag usually goes up in people's minds, right? You're probably thinking it too. How can this possibly be secure? How does this work with all the privacy rules like GDPR and CCPA? I mean, the old way was a security nightmare with sensitive data copied everywhere. Well, this is where the modern approach really shines. It comes with this amazing toolkit for super granular control. For example, with something called Secure Views, you can share an entire table, but just hide the sensitive columns, like names or social security numbers. With secure UDFs, that's user-defined functions, you can let a partner run analysis on your sensitive data, but all they get back is the final answer, like an average or a count. They never see the raw data itself. And with secure joins, two companies can find out where their customer list overlap without either side ever having to reveal their full list to the other. It's a whole new level of secure, privacy-first collaboration.
So you see, this shift is about so much more than just being more efficient. When sharing data becomes this simple, this secure, and this scalable, it completely unlocks entirely new business models. It lets companies go from just using data as an internal tool to actually treating it as a commercial product, a brand new stream of revenue. And we typically see this evolution happen across 4 main workflows. It usually starts inside the company, just sharing data between different departments to finally break down those internal silos. Then it expands to sharing data outbound with your partners, like a retailer sharing real-time inventory data with a supplier. Then you start bringing data inbound from partners to make your own data even richer. But the final, most transformative stage, that's data monetization, where you turn your unique data into a product that you can actually sell. And this entire movement has fueled the rise of what we call data exchanges. Now, these are not your grandpa's data marketplaces that just sold you a static CSV file. No, no. Modern exchanges are built on this no-copy architecture we've been talking about. Data providers can list their live, updating data sets, and consumers can discover them, subscribe, and start running queries on that live data in minutes, all without the data ever leaving the provider's secure system. And because of this architecture, it enables all these flexible, modern pricing models that you're probably already familiar with from the software world. You can offer monthly or yearly subscriptions for data that's always fresh. You can charge a one-time fee for a big historical data set. You can even create different pricing tiers, a free version, a standard version, and a premium version that give users access to more data or more features.
Okay, this is all incredibly powerful stuff. But the big question is, where do you even start? How do you get going? Let's break it down into a really practical 6-step roadmap you can follow. So the whole journey really starts by looking inward. First, you gotta identify your current pain points and opportunities. Then, define what role you're gonna play. Are you mostly a data provider or a consumer? Step 3 is crucial. Confirm your tech platform can actually do all this. After that, you don't go big bang. You implement a small proof of concept to show it works. Then you create a plan to reach out to partners. And finally, you execute and show the return on investment. The key is to start small, prove the value, and then build momentum from there.
So let's just wrap up with this thought. We've gone on this journey from a world of painful, slow, copy and paste data movement to a new reality of instant, secure, live data access. And that leaves us with a really fascinating and, I think, profound question. If we can now exchange access to our most valuable data almost effortlessly, What are the truly complex, world-changing problems we could finally start tackling together? Think about combining healthcare, climate, and economic data across entire industries, all while protecting privacy. The potential is just absolutely immense.